Thank you very much, Arthur and Mani and everybody. And thank you to the Mito hackers who have joined this session. So as Arthur has already set up the context of the discussion, so we will try to look into the two aspects into this talk, that from the decades, like for decades, we have viewed endometriosis primarily as a hormonal disease. Today, together we are going to explore the another dimension of it. What if part of the story lies in the tiny organelles that power every cell in our body that we know with the name of mitochondria? Perhaps understanding how cells generate and manage the energy may help us better understand why endometriosis develop, persist, and affects women so profoundly. This is something we are going to discuss into this particular session of this endometriosis and energy crisis inside women's cell. As we know that when it comes, is my slides are changing? Yes. When we look into it, that what is exactly is happening. So what do we understand about that particular disease that is affecting so many women, almost like a 190 women are facing this challenge, especially in their reproductive age. Most people think the endometriosis is simply tissue growing outside the uterus, but that description only tells us where it occurs. It doesn't tell that why it survives. So when it comes to the different kind of a common symptoms of the disease, that the chronic pelvic pain, dysmenorrhea, dyspareunia, infertility, fatigue, and all those kind of issues that we have seen, and you may be knowing someone who may be like going through those kind of issues. So this is the particular diagram. If you pay a little attention over here, you will come to know that, okay, from the uterine, that particular tissue comes out and generally it start growing on the ovaries, and it also block the fallopian tubes also. So that is the region that when it is going to block the fallopian tubes, there will be the challenges with the infertility or like a getting pregnant, and it will have other kind of a issue which is more related to the chronic pelvic pain, and later on it will become a chronic inflammatory disease and endometrial like tissue outside the uterus that is going to become those are going to give the challenge as in managing the entire energy of the body. Looking into that aspect, we will also come to know that we all have understood that mitochondria from the high school time, that okay, it produces the energy, but why that generally matters. So today we will try to keep like a powerhouse of the cell. That's what we know, but we will try to understand that the mitochondria is a command center for the cellular health. Why it is a command center of the cellular health? The reason is very simple. If you pay attention over here, you will find that into the center there is a mitochondria. Then it forms that hexagonal pattern that generally covers the ATP cellular energy part. Then it leads to the cell survival. Third thing is the oxidative stress. So what happens the moment the oxidative stress take control of that particular cellular system, then it leads to the inflammation and regulation of the inflammation. And that's where the disease generally start persisting and can emerge the disease that can start giving us the symptoms. So as you can see that the disease is settling down from the very beginning. It is not just starting over here. So what happens after that, once the inflammation is settled down, it is going to affect the immune function. Once it will get affected, then later on it will change our entire hormonal response. So what is the medical science that they have understood and focused more on the hormonal response part of that particular disease that we call as a endometriosis. So this whole story of the 5 another paradigms we are completely missing, and trying to treat the patients just by giving either them the pain relievers or giving them the hormonal therapies or maybe suggesting them for a surgical procedures. And even when they go for a surgical procedures, generally those lesions can reoccur, it can regrow. So there is no permanent solution to the endometriosis, and most of the time it can take even to go for a total optimum surgery where they will go for a hysterectomy and they may remove the uterus and everything depending upon the complication of the disease as well. So the solution is not just here. So what we mean to say that we may have not understood the disease properly, whereas we are just focusing on the one pillar of that disease that is precipitating out as a hormonal response. So when we are looking into it, we found that the healthy mitochondria will lead to the healthy cells and the healthy tissue to have the healthy woman. That is what we need to pay attention for. So we cannot just go with the hormonal response, but we also need to fix that disease into the origin of it. And how are we going to do that? There is a research, the new studies are emerging, which has taken a note that the mitochondria plays very important role at that juncture. So we are going to learn about that more into the detail in a couple of minutes. Here into this particular slide, we would like to understand that why does endometriosis develop? Why it happens? What is the reason after it? And even if it happens, how it goes into it. So into that you will find that the endometriosis is a multifactorial disease. Once you will put everything it. Mitochondria don't replace hormones. So just let us not think about that, okay, hormones is a wrong story and mitochondria is the right story. We need to find that balance between the mitochondria and hormones. So the mitochondria don't replace hormones. They help explain how cells respond to hormone. That is what it is important. The mitochondria explain how cells respond to hormonal and the inflammatory signals. And when this part is not addressed, then we are only just working as a traffic controller and trying to fix the hormonal signaling at one point of time. And that is not is going to cure this disease, even not going to control that disease. And then there will be the drastic measures that need to be taken in order to understand that how we are going to deal with that kind of a painful situation that our women are going through into their reproductive age cycle from 14 to 40 almost. And even what challenges, because oocyte formation generally takes a lot of energy, and when the mitochondria is down, oocytes are not getting the enough energy. And if you try to think that which are the cells in our body that generally have the most requirement or requirement of the energy. It is not brain, it is not muscles, nothing else than the oocytes. This require the demand of the energy generally 3 times more into the oocyte formation. The demand of the energy almost like a 3 to 5 fold when some woman is going for to conceive the child. So that's where if that energy demand is not met, those people, those women are going to have a problem. The woman clock is already running against the time. So if they will start losing the mitochondria also at the same time, it is going to be a challenging journey for them. They need to go to the fertility centers. They need to go for the IVF. They need to take the different kind of supplements, and the journey becomes not only just economically burden, but at the same time there is a emotional trauma that every lady need to go through. So that is what we need to understand into the whole context and try to understand that how we can help those particular ladies which are facing this particular challenges. So until we will not understand the disease in the entirety from the both aspects, we won't be able to offer the solution to them. So with that aspects, we will find here that why does endometriosis develop? Looking beyond hormones, because up to the hormone we are already looking into it, but beyond hormones that how we are going to look into it. So the one reason could be the genetics, So if somebody's aunt, mother or sister is already facing that kind of a situation, most probably that the family, it's a related to the gene. So that is can be addressed on a very different level, but still there will be the requirement of the energy to have a good cellular mechanism. There need to be a good dynamics of the mitochondria biogenesis and the mitophagy, and at the same time finding the right dynamic balance between the mitochondria biogenesis and the mitophagy. And then the next could happen the retrograde menstruation. In that, generally what happens that the menstrual tissues flows back through the fallopian tube. So it means that the something that need to come out, it is getting sucked up into the fallopian tube, and then it will go to the pelvic cavity, and that's where it is going to block. And even at that time, if some lady or some woman is going to conceive the fallopian tube, which is already having those endometriosis, and because of that, because of it will not allow the egg actually to attach to the lining of the uterus, and it cannot develop further. So that's where they will have the issues of the infertility. So that's what happens generally, the women which go through the retrograde menstruation. Then it lead to the immune dysfunction. So the cells need to communicate into the different kind of a signaling pathway, transduction pathway. So that generally get like a hampered. It can be hijacked. It can be hyperreactive. So based on that, many things will change, and impaired immune surveillance allows ectopic endometrial cells to survive and the evade clearance. Then the oxidative stress comes into the picture. So which is, we all know, that is the reason that the most of the places people are prescribing lot of antioxidant like a CQ10 and all. But this is not the solution only. It can definitely help in order to reduce the ROS, the reactive oxygen species. But at the same time, we need to have that environment where that environment itself will become the pre-oxidant environment. And how it will happen? Once we will stop the electron chain pathway, where the radicals are not going to hurt or damage the membrane of the mitochondria, and then the entire thing will not come out from that matrix. That will start the cascade of the entire immune cell signaling pathway that will go to into the pain mechanism later on. Then the another part comes into is the mitochondrial dysfunction. So we are okay up to here, something was happening, but the oxidative stress, it has started affecting the mitochondria. Now the mitochondria is in trouble and looking for a help. How this mitochondria can be helped, rescued, can be regenerated, and the damaged mitochondria can be thrown out from the body by the mechanism of the mitophagy. This is what that we need to look at it. That will settle the chronic inflammation, and when there is a chronic inflammation, the pain will settle down. So pain is just a symptom. Pain is a whole biology. So that we need to understand that why that pain is coming. Where is the pain signaling pathway? How it is working? So persistent inflammation will have the tissue damage, and it will promote the angiogenesis, and together with the angiogenesis, it will become kind of a scar tissue, which is a thickening of the uterine that is on the ovary or on the fallopian tube. So it will generate the scar tissue later on, and it will amplify the pain. So at this stage, most of the women will have that issue during the menstrual cycle. They will go through a lot of pelvic pain, and to diagnose that, for most of the women, it takes 7 to 10 years, because they think that it is natural, but it need to be understood from the very beginning that this is something can be addressed then and there, instead of killing themselves for like a 10 years and then going from the different kind of a surgical procedures later on. Persistent lesions, so then it will form the lesions and the disease will progress further. So it is a self-perpetuating disease that will continue from there, and the lesion growth will happen, and the disease progression will also happen. In very less number of cases, you will find that there will be the ovary cyst will formation may also take place, and in many cases, though it is not cancerous, but sometime it can become cancerous also, but in most of the time it is more likely benign. But in a cancerous situation, there is some study that directly linked to it, which is a endometriosis associated adenocarcinoma. So it can happen in some very unfortunate cases, but there is not so many cases that is happening because of the endometriosis. So endometriosis is a multifactorial disease. Mitochondrial dysfunction interacts with hormone, immune, genetic, and the environmental factor in order to precipitate out as a endometriosis. The next slide that you will find that why does endometriosis hurt? What is the reason behind it? Why does that pain? So on the previous slide that we have seen that the lesion formations are already taken place. In the next slide, we will learn once the lesions are there, the endometrial lesions, how it is going to go from here. So this will become a perpetuating cycle where the endometrial lesions, chronic inflammation will take place, oxidative stress will come in, and then there is a mitochondrial dysfunction. The mitochondria is playing a very important role in order to understand this particular disease, the way it is happening and precipitating out. And this is the part which seems to be totally ignored. But I am glad that in last like a 2-3 years or 5 years, I see that lot of researcher, lot of scientists, and a company like a FMG Health Science has taken a note of that particular mitochondrial health, and that's where they are working on it. And I'm glad that they have invited for that particular talk, which is going to have the dimension of the hormone, as well as we are going to talk more about the mitochondrial health as well. So once the mitochondrial dysfunction takes place, it means that the ROS damage, the mitochondria impairing their structure, function, reducing energy production. So this ATP battery will go down. So that is the other reason that we need to find something that can supplement, that can start the biogenesis, that can has the rejuvenation of that energy. And how are we going to do? That is something that we are looking upon and we are stressing upon and trying to bring something on the table. So that is going to help the patients in need. And then there is the impaired cellular repair, that when there is no energy, you can't do anything. And at the same time, persistent immune activation, whether it is your IL-2, whether it is your different kind of a cytokines, or it is a different kind of a cells like a macrophages and all, everything will go haywire, and it is going to activate the immune system for no reason. And it will hamper the entire cell-to-cell communication. It will change that entire microenvironment around it. It will change the entire intracellular milieu around it. And that will lead to the nerve sensitization. So once the nerve sensitization taking place, that time you will feel the pain. Until that, it is all happening beneath the surface. Now it has gone to the nerves, where the nerves are going to pick up that signal, and then there is the complaint of the pain. And when there is a complaint of a pain, then the most of the time we are going to get the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, or maybe the painkillers, or maybe some people get prescription for the different kind of a hormonal therapy. So this is that's where it is going to start. But it won't end over here, and the disease progression will continue. So that's how the endometriosis hurt the woman and where the pain comes from. The next slide will tell you that why this matters for women more than anything else. So you will see here that these are the quadrilateral system over here. Here you will see that age 20, age 40, age 60, age 80. So we have just like divided into that part, and you will come to know that what exactly is happening at the age 20. The hormones are at peak. Age 40, perimenopause will settle down. Age 60, postmenopause, we are just completing, and then advancing age. At each stage, we will find that there is an association of the mitochondria. especially the mitochondria which are unable to meet the demand of the ATP energy. And remember that ATP is the currency of the cell that it will be required in order to do anything into the body. Even when we are just taking a breath, we are using the ATP. If there is no ATP, we can't do anything. So this is something is the most important part of it. So Bowman biology is one of the most energy demanding system. One of the most energy demanding system into the human physiology. And that is the reason that why this matters more for the woman. Women lives almost like a for life. Every time they are getting reborn, from puberty to pregnancy to menopause. It's not easy to cope up with it. And that is the reason they deserve most of the respect from all of us, because the way they go through this entire cycle, the way they bear the all kind of a changes and pain, and dealing with the 6 different kind of a hormones on the monthly basis, it's not easy. They are juggling. And that's where if we can support them with something by understanding them and finding the new solutions that can help them to continue their life and live their life what they deserve. So mitochondria are the silent foundation behind every hormonal shift that takes place in our body. So on the next slide, you will learn that what exactly is happening. What is the connection of the hormone and the mitochondria then? In this, you will find that at the age of from 10 to 60, these all are the mitochondria. And if you take this x-axis and you consider it as like a y-axis here, you will find that in the beginning, we have a lot of mitochondria, but with the age 30 or age 40, you will see that the number of the mitochondria is going down. And that's where the aging starts. Because people may be already like a living as a aged person because they may be lacking on the energy. One fine day you will realize that if you don't have a energy, you will feel already 80-year-old. But if you have a energy at 80, okay, you will feel that it's still 40, that I can do whatever I supposed to do. So when the concept of the age comes in, it is directly proportional to the number of the mitochondria that you have. So what you need, is there something that can grow me more mitochondria? Is there something that can start that biogenesis? Is there something that can clear my damaged mitochondria in order to activate the mitophagy? So all those things comes into the picture. So hormone supports mitochondria. It's a kind of a twin engine. When one breaks, the other collapses. So mitochondria cannot live without hormone, and hormone cannot live without mitochondria. Why? Because the estrogen enhance mitochondrial biogenesis and increase the ATP output and protect against the oxidative stress. But same time, estrogen is high, it will lead to the endometriosis also. Now here, the progesterone stabilizes the mitochondrial membrane and reduce the cellular injury. Thyroid hormones stimulate mitochondrial oxygen and consumption metabolism. So hormones is supporting the mitochondria. But then what mitochondria is doing in return? That it is supporting the hormones. The first step of the steroid hormone synthesis begins inside the mitochondria. So if that mitochondria are not present into the good number or they don't have the right function at the place, then we will not have the cholesterol to the pregnenolone synthesis taking place. So that's where the weak mitochondria directly reduce the estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and the cortisol production. So that's where those two things need to work together. So there is a loop. Hormone keeps mitochondria young and mitochondria ensure hormones stay balanced. If it is out of balance, you will see all kind of diseases. And that loop determines the fertility, metabolism, aging, and the resilience. So this is what need to be understand, and we need to find that right balance between the the hormone and the mitochondria, and that is the co-junction where both meets. Into the next slide, you will find that why women depend more on the mitochondrial health, why it is so important. So you will see that where the journey is starting. The journey is starting right from the womb. What is important over here to know that the mitochondrial DNA comes 100% from the mother. It doesn't come from the father. So the fate of the child is almost decided in terms of the energy and associated to many diseases by the woman itself. If somebody want to have a healthy progeny, they need to make sure that the woman of the family will get enough and she will have the good healthy mitochondria in order to meet the demand of the pregnancy and producing and bringing the new life to this world. This is something very, very important. So the ovaries are mitochondria heavy organs, as I said into the beginning. Ovaries, oocytes contain highest mitochondrial count of the any human cells. So we had so many cells depending upon which organ we are talking. You will find that the most number of the mitochondria are into the oocytes. So if the oocytes are not healthy, if the eggs are not healthy, then the progeny is not going to be healthy. Or the body will itself discard when they are going to go for a conceive, because body may realize that, okay, this particular egg quality is not good, or the zygote formation after the fertilization or attaching to the wall of the uterine, that is not going to survive, then the miscarriage generally takes place. And many IVF treatments also get failed if the quality of the eggs are not good, or if the motility of the sperms is not good enough. So these are the two factors which having that tango, and that is the tango of the mitochondria and the hormone. It need to be in sync. The fertility declines because mitochondria declines. Egg quality equal to the mitochondrial quality. Aging oocytes is going to be the poor embryo development. So we do 100 things in order to have a good family, a good progeny, a good child. But the first step we need to take right into the very beginning, whether am I meeting the demand of my cellular system by having the enough mitochondria, a functional mitochondria in my system. Then the pregnancy triple the mitochondrial demand. So if you need maybe like 1800 calories in a day in order to sustain the life, a professional life, maybe for a man it is around 2200 calories. But in the time of the pregnancy, the demand goes like, and we are talking about the cellular energy, not just a calorie. I'm just taking an example over here, but the demands of the the energy demand tripled by that time. So placenta function. So placenta is just like a new organ. So woman is like creating a new organ within the body in order so that this particular process can happen, and the fetal development rely entirely on the maternal mitochondria, as I mentioned. The father also has the mitochondrial DNA, but generally it get it generally get destroyed in the process. But the mitochondrial DNA survives from the mother. That's where it goes to the progeny. So a child metabolic health, aging trajectory, even disease susceptibility, everything can be correlated to the quality of the mitochondrial DNA. So autoimmune risk is higher in women. Sorry. So hormone, mitochondria, immune interaction, driving the conditions like a Hashimoto, lupus, RA, like a thyroid is also kind of a hormonal disorder. But where all those imbalance is coming or settling down or precipitating out, it is the root cause, maybe a one side hormonal and the rest of the physiology and many other region. But now we know that the mitochondrial health is a one of the common trade or a common thread across those many diseases that we are talking today. So, coming to my next slide, in this slide you will find that a common biological thread across women health. What is it? Whether you call PCOS, it is again related to the mitochondrial dysfunction, insulin resistance, endometriosis that we are talking today, inflammatory mitochondrial stress, infertility, premature ovarian failure, perimenopause symptoms, thyroid disorder, chronic fatigue, and the fibromyalgia. So you will find in all those diseases that we can have the fancy name for it, but at the root cause is something deep into our cells. And one of that factor or one of the contributing factor is the mitochondria, and that's where it is very, very important that mitochondrial function goes down. You can see from this graph, and it starts here. The mitochondria function is here, and then slowly it fades out. Now, there are a couple of myths that we are going to talk that most of the people may have. That the myth is that it is just painful periods. The reality is not. It's a chronic inflammatory disease. We need to understand it and we need to address it. And it is not just ends with the pain. It causing the infertility. It is causing the systemic symptoms also. Then it's hormonal. And that's where there is a hormonal therapy is given. But hormones are involved. But genetics, immune dysfunction, inflammation, oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, all contribute in precipitating out this particular disease. Then surgery cures it. No, there is a no cure. So there is a no cure for the endometriosis. Only we can relieve symptoms. Because even if we will go for a surgery, the recurrence takes place. So disease is systematic. The pain severity reflects disease severity. No, that's not true. Pain and lesions burdens do not always correlate. Nothing new happening in the research, that is also wrong. There are new research is emerging. Author has also mentioned in the beginning that the mitochondrial biology is a new angle that we are looking into it. We are looking into the immunology. We are looking into the immunotherapy side, multiomics, and trying to find some precision medicine that can help the woman dealing with that particular disease. So that is my last slide. But what I can say at last, that something which is very profound, that the one message at the last that we can give about that particular, that can summarize everything that what we have discussed so far, that we would like to remember today, it's a hormonal cells, what to do, but the mitochondria gives those cells the energy to do it. So hormone can do it, but where the hormones are going to get that energy? So that energy is coming from the mitochondria. Understanding both may save the future of the woman health. And with this, I thank you all for listening me patiently.